The movie was better than the book. At least part 2 was. I'm not sure that I would say that about part 1, but I, as a book reader who just finished a reread of the book, came out of the theater last night thinking that was so amazing. It was such a good movie. And I will even go so far as to say better than the book. That never happens. How often do readers get to go to a theater and experience a movie and expect to actually be happy? Because the book is always better, right? That's how it always is. Also, spoiler warning for the book and both parts of the new movie. Okay, spoiler warning out of the way. One of the things that I thought was so good was the ending. If you've read the book, you know the ending is weird. Jessica and Johnny, don't worry, history will call us wives. Why does it end that way? Why? Why is that what the female characters care about at the end after everything that's happened? The end of this I thought was so much more realistic and meaningful. After everything Johnny has been through, going from doubting Paul to loving him to fiercely protecting him to now seeing what he's chosen to do and become, and watching him say, I will take the hand of your daughter in marriage to the emperor, seeing her walk away and leave and ride a sandworm out of there, much more poetic ending for her. There were lots of things that were left out. I am not sure that any of the little things that got left out really mattered to the overarching story. As a reader, it was disappointing not to have Thufir Hawat come back. In the second part, there was no suspicion at all laid on Jessica. That wasn't even a present plot point. And I don't feel like we needed it to be. And there were other little things like that that just weren't included. And it was fine. This movie felt to me like a stripped down version of the story. Like they went in and took out all the little things that didn't really matter and just kept the meat of the story there. There wasn't even a Count Fenring. There was a Lady Fenring. I don't actually remember if they called her Lady Fenring. They used her first name, which I don't remember. The scenes with her were so well done. The moment where you think she's in the process of seducing him, which I guess she is, but she says, put your hand in the box, and then the Gom Jabbar is just there by his neck. I loved that scene. A scene not in the book, but added in to bring a little more understanding to the audience who maybe hasn't read the book. Like, why are we even considering this Harkonnen? And I'm sorry, I'm not sure I can make myself say Harkonnen. Why are we even considering Feyd-Rautha? Because of the type of person he is. But the Bene Gesserit got their bloodlines. They want him. The bloodline is secured. That was also a good scene. I'm already way off my notes. My notes are out of order. I'm just gonna go in the order my notes are. A lot of the scenes that were stripped down had to do with Vladimir Harkonnen. I feel like we didn't really get a good sense of the type of person he is. I think they did show enough to get the audience to really dislike him, which was the point. There were moments where, even though the movie had a scene pulled straight from the book, the motivations were different. For example, in the arena, Feyd does duel an undrugged Atreides, but instead of him planning with the captured Thufir for their own reasons, it's the Baron saying he's testing Feyd. So, plot point from the book still happens, but for different reasons, and there were a few others like that. One complaint that the book gets a lot from the female audience especially is how it's just sexist enough to be annoying. There's women. There's strong women, there's powerful women, but it feels like they don't really have any agency and they're kind of relegated to whatever roles the men put them in. And I felt like that was something that the movie fixed and did way better, but without overdoing it or shoving it in your face, including that women got to be part of the Fedaykin. It is mentioned in the book that the women and children are perfectly capable of killing Harkonnens. And so showing that the women who are strong and capable can be part of that group, I thought was a good choice. Changing Chani from being Sayadina to being in the Fedaykin, I don't think had that big of an impact on the story. It did give her more of a reason to spend time with Paul, gave them an opportunity to develop their relationship. She's the girl of his dreams, but they get to actually get to know each other. And I liked that Chani has a friend. That's something you don't often see in books for some reason, are the main characters having normal friendships. I thought that part of the movie was really, really well done. My least favorite part was probably how Jessica was handled. She's one of my favorite characters in the book, and I don't feel like her character translated correctly how I wanted her to translate. The main thing being that she lost a lot of her motherliness in the movie. She was always a mother first. The whole reason she had a boy instead of a girl was for love of her Duke. And since she has Paul, yes, she thinks he could be the Kwisatz Haderach. She's going to train him as a Bene Gesserit, even though he's male, but she always loves him. She's so terrified when he goes to get tested by the Gom Jabbar. But in the first movie, I felt like she was a little, I don't know, like afraid and weak, whereas she's supposed to be strong. Yes, she was afraid Paul might die, but the line by the Reverend Mother that Jessica is the one guarding the door and no one is going to get past her, that is saying that Jessica is a very capable person. And then in the second part, once they reach the Fremen, I still felt like she was often mother first. She still had herself in the position of training Paul, of being the Reverend Mother once she got there, but it felt like she kind of became a little villainous, the way she was pushing Paul so much. I don't know, I was just a little disappointed. I would have liked to see Jessica's character handled better. Oh, and there was no time skip. So that was interesting because Alia is a character. She gets born, she has the weird advanced growth, the forced physical growth to catch up with her mental capacities. So since they chose not to do a 2-year time skip and to just kind of progress through time at a little bit more of a natural pace, it was interesting to see Jessica talk to her baby and then talk for her baby. It was weird, but I think it worked. The book is weird. It's gonna make some weird things in a movie. That's fine. And so no baby with Paul and Chani either. Because there was no time jump, there was no time for them to have a full-term pregnancy. I read an interesting Reddit thread about what the blue scarf meant, that it's women who are in a relationship with a man and have a male son is what that's representative of. I don't know how accurate that is, but it could be a little clue that even though they didn't have Paul and Chani have a baby in this movie, it's possible she could currently be pregnant, or foreshadowing for the next movie or something. But with no time jump, they couldn't really add a baby at that point. Let's talk about the religion in the movie. I feel like religion is often avoided in modern day storytelling. It's kind of a hot topic. It's really easy to offend, to be offensive, to be offended. It can be difficult to handle well. It's snowing, and it's March. I felt like it was really refreshing to have a movie that was so open with its religious themes. It's part of the story. You can't have the story of Dune and Paul becoming this messiah without strong religious themes, and they really just leaned into it. Religion and faith, and the movie used the word hope, those are all integral parts of humanity. And the story is about humanity in the far future and how they still have hope and prophecies and something to believe so deeply in. And they didn't steer away from that. And it showed the Fremen being so passionate about their religion. There was a lot of fighting. There were different groups. I thought that was also a good choice because when you're reading the book, you as the reader know that the prophecies were planted there by the Bene Gesserit. They're kind of fake. But if you were to just watch the movie, you might not know that. So to have the two groups saying openly to the audience and the Fremen knowing this is not real, and then this group over here is saying, but we believe it is. I felt like that was a good way to handle that, going from book to movie. And the Fremen religion being very heavily based off of Middle Eastern religions and having those people be so passionate. And then you have the Bene Gesserit, which seems very heavily influenced by modern Catholicism. The Bene Gesserit don't seem like really passionate religious followers. It's more cold and calculating and looking for control. So interesting to see the two different influences on those two main religions in the movie, how those were handled. I thought it was very good. I felt like it drew in the emotion of the audience, which in my case was just me, drew in my emotions. I loved the sand walking. That wasn't really a big part of the book or the old movie. It's just something you have to learn how to do so you don't draw sandworms who will eat you. But they kind of made it a thing. Every time you see Fremen walking on the sand, they're sand walking. And then that little moment where Chani and Paul sand walk together, it was so graceful and so beautiful. And having been a musician and a music teacher, steady beat is really important. And seeing them practice something with no steady beat that they still do together, and it looks so beautiful. I found that really interesting. Maybe a dancer as opposed to a musician might have a different opinion on it. It was fun to watch. I liked it. Fade Routha's characterization was done very well. They took a lot of liberty on the aesthetic choices for, is it Giedi Prime? The Harkonnen homeworld, and having them all be bald. In the book, they have dark hair. Yeah, oh well. I thought all those aesthetic choices were fine. It looked really good. It was weird, strange. You got a good sense that this is a different world, a different planet, completely different, very dark and creepy. And then Fade Routha was done very well. I was creeped out by him. I hated all the scenes he was in from a how it made me feel standpoint, but on the same hand, because it made me feel that way, that means I could recognize how well done it was. Because you're not supposed to like Fade Routha. You're supposed to be disgusted with him and hope that he doesn't rise to a position of power. And then the duel at the end, very well done. I hated Fade's voice. I think they tried too hard to make him sound like the Baron. I didn't feel like his voice matched his appearance. And I don't know if there's a good sense of this in the movie, but in the book, I loved how when Paul goes to duel Jameis, he goes in as an Atreides. How you start a duel, do you submit? And then when we get to the end, when he's dueling Fade Routha, he goes in as a Fremen. He has his crysknife, may your blade chip and shatter. I really appreciated that we got to see Princess Irulan. Instead of just little chapter headings, we see her as a real character. She's not just standing in the background and Paul is like, I'm gonna marry her. We kind of get to know what she thinks about it and how she feels about it. And we know that Princess Irulan is Bene Gesserit, and we know that the Reverend Mother is the Truthsayer, the Reverend Mother, Helen Moheim, whatever. We know that she is the Emperor's Truthsayer, so they have probably interacted. It was nice in the movie to see that interaction. I could go on. I could go on for quite a long time, probably. If I think of more, I'll put it in the comments. Know that I will not be offended if you disagree with me and you're like, oh, the book is still better. I would love to hear other people's thoughts too. And happy reading or movie watching. Bye.